Hello everybody, this is John. Welcome to the Ag Weather Outlook for May 30th, 2015. Well, there's been some progress as far as getting corn into the ground over the north central U.S. North Dakota is now above 80%. Eastern Corn Belt now is almost near 90%. So there was some progress over the last week, and very soon everybody will be over 90% with the exception of Colorado. And look at Texas with all that rain. That's really lagging as well. But you can see that red shading here is indicating above 90%. So most of the Corn Belt, we've got the seed in the ground. So I wanted to look at the number of rain days in the last 30 days, and this sort of tells the story. And I've been using that term, I guess, ample rainfall, and you're going to be hearing me say that. And if you look at the light shade of green, that is saying about, maybe 11 to 15 days out of the last 30, there's been some measurable precipitation. But look at the area dark green. That is 16 or more days. And actually, if you look closely, you'll see some blue. And Colorado has been very wet. We haven't heard as much about that. But also parts of Texas, which we definitely have, into Oklahoma. But look at other areas, northwest Missouri, southeast parts of Nebraska, parts of southwest Iowa, even the upper Midwest, parts of the Dakotas, which started off this spring quite dry, but you're seeing in the last 30 days a definite uptick in number of days of precipitation. Now, if we look at the amount of rain that fell over the last 7 days here, you can see from a national perspective, really the action was from Kansas across Oklahoma and Texas. We heard a lot about the flooding in that area. Also, parts of the southeast U.S. were wet, particularly northwest parts of Alabama and parts of Mississippi. But across the primary Corn Belt, we saw some very needed precipitation over Wisconsin. Wisconsin had been trending quite dry, and look at that, lots of 2-inch or more rainfall amounts over parts of Wisconsin. Eastern Iowa, again, could use some rain. We see some areas in yellow in there. So the areas that sort of missed out look to be Indiana, parts of the Eastern Corn Belt, and that's the area I'd like to see some more precipitation. But again, if you look at the entire region, that's what I'm saying, ample precipitation, because most of the area did receive some rainfall. And if we look at the last 7 days, you can see more blue, which is above normal, than red, which is below normal. But that core of that deeper red, parts of Illinois, eastern Illinois, southeast Illinois, and a large part of Indiana, parts of Michigan as well, and Ohio. So that's the area we'd like to see some additional precipitation. Everywhere else is in fairly good shape, if not even getting a little bit wet. Look at that, Wisconsin again, pretty widespread above normal precipitation. Now, if we look at the last 30 days, this gives us a little bit longer term perspective, and I like to look at that because sometimes, especially on the media, we're looking at very short term, the next couple days or the last day. And I like to look back at the last 30 days because this sometimes tells us the bigger story, which is important. And we can definitely see that south central U.S., that's been the biggest story. But from the primary Corn Belt, I think there's a couple things here. The upper Midwest, the Dakotas, really have seen some improvement up there with this above normal precipitation over the last 30 days. So we've gone from well below to somewhat above. And then the eastern Corn Belt again, from southeast Illinois across most of Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, and then the entire East Coast, that's where we need additional precipitation. In the last 30 days, your departure is 2 or 3 inches. So we could definitely use 2 to 3 inches, and that would really help. Now, everywhere in the middle, we see a little bit of yellow, a little bit of blue. Pretty good shape, not all that bad, fairly close to normal from that period of time. So soils reflect the precipitation, obviously, and you can see where soils are dry is indicated in yellow, and where soils are wet indicated in green and blue. Even the eastern Corn Belt is not experiencing, at least from this model, extremely dry soils like we're seeing in the northeast U.S., but really it would be great to see a couple inches of rain in that area. Now, over the last week, for the most part, temperatures were above normal, and in some cases well above normal, as indicated in the red here. Southwest U.S. was cooler than normal, as indicated in blue. Now, you might remember for 3 or 4 weeks now I've been talking about that southwest jet stream and how that's been bringing moisture into the region, into the central part, the western plains, central plains, definitely the south central U.S. And this week it looks like we're beginning to transition more into a summertime pattern. Now, what that will mean in the bigger picture is that precipitation should become more scattered. And if you look at the jet stream alignment, and this is an average for the week, you don't see any blue. You see more of a west to east type pattern. It does mean that a system will be pushing through earlier this week and give us some cooler and drier weather behind it. So we're going to first go through this period of cool weather, especially in the upper Midwest, somewhat drier, but it does not look to me like a prolonged dry period. So if we get into the middle part of June here, this is not that much unusual for a sort of a normal type pattern. There'll be some energy here, but for the most part, look at this, not a whole lot of shading of coloring in here, and that's saying near normal jet stream. So pretty much a typical type pattern. Temperature's not a whole lot one way or the other from normal. Precipitation still looks fairly active in the middle part of the nation. So here are temperatures this week. I did want to show you that once a system moves through early this week, it's going to tend to shut off the precipitation for a number of days. Cooler weather is going to be coming in behind it. So I think next week when I do my briefing for temperature, I'm going to be showing you some cooler temperatures. Then once we get into past maybe 5-6 days from now, this is that near normal temperature pattern I was talking about as we get into the first couple weeks of June. Now, precipitation is going to be much tougher to pinpoint now that it's becoming more scattered. And if you look at the upper Midwest, you see some areas of 2 inches. And so there'll be some precipitation in the upper Midwest, but I think it's going to be scattered, sort of hard to call. Now look at Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. There's also some precipitation forecast with that front moving through this week. Hopefully we'll get some precipitation in there, but again, I think that specific alignment is very hard to say where that'll be. But I think it'll be interesting in next week's briefing, especially in parts of Illinois, eastern Illinois and Indiana, parts of southern Michigan, to see where that precipitation actually occurs. Good news for Oklahoma, a quiet week, and also for Texas, a much quieter week. So that's reflecting that jet stream generally pushing further north. And when that jet stream pushes north, we get more precipitation over the upper Midwest. So I know you're quite interested in precipitation this time of year, either have some quiet weather and not have so much, or you might need some more. So let's take a look at the next 4 weeks. Again, week 1 a lot more reliable than 4 weeks out. But let's take a look and see if we have some hints on what's going on. So this week, this is the area I said we're going to have to keep an eye on, see if we do get some needed precipitation in this region. Scattered showers, precipitation, so getting a little bit wetter again in the upper Midwest. Everywhere in the middle, pretty quiet week. Now week 2, and the pattern that it's looking like, and models have been showing this for a long time, is the general central plains here. Looks like it's going to be fairly active with scattered showers and thunderstorms. And the eastern Corn Belt generally trending a little bit quieter. Don't see any yellow here, so it could be near normal precipitation. Week 3, about the same. Week 4, about the same. So my takeaway from this is North and South Dakota, Nebraska, parts of Minnesota, parts of Iowa are probably going to average near to above normal precipitation for at least the next 2-3 weeks. The eastern Corn Belt, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, is probably going to be averaging near to below normal precipitation for the next 3 to 4 weeks. Now, as far as temperatures go, because of the warm week, soil temperatures in the 60s have pushed well to the north now. And if we wanted to look at sort of the progression here, this was a week ago. And then as we got over the week, you can sort of see this is the progression of temperatures. Look how much the warm soil temperatures have pushed north over the last week. And then this week, due to that cooler air, generally a status quo. It doesn't look like a real strong cooling except for the upper Midwest. You can sort of see here that even the upper Midwest has some warming, but just sort of a status quo this week with the cooler air still remaining in the 60s over a large area. So your takeaway points, I think the bigger picture is once we get this front through early this week, generally precipitation becoming more scattered, more summer-like. Cooler week for a number of days. Most of this week, cooler temperatures, but after that, it looks like generally a summertime pattern. Temperatures fairly close to normal, and overall, I still see adequate rainfall. If I had to say one area I'd be sort of still concerned about, I'd like to see some more rain in the eastern Corn Belt. Might be a little bit wet in the western sections, but overall, temperatures fairly close to normal. A bit above normal at times and a bit below normal at times. So that's this week's weather briefing. Hope your operations are going well and the weather's not disrupting it too much. So if you have any questions, go ahead and email me. I'd be glad to answer them. Have a great week.